Hello, this is Gina from Her Cosmic Crown. Welcome back to my channel. Sorry, it has been a long time since I've done a video. I am just now getting over a cold, and before that I had a cold 2 weeks prior to that, so I've been sick for a long time, and hopefully I am all better and I can do more videos. So anyway, I'm back. And today we are going to talk about some of the biggest differences between modern Western astrology and Vedic astrology. And this is a huge topic. There are many differences. There are some similarities as well. Today I will be focusing on some of the differences and some of the techniques that I use when it comes to the Tropical Vedic Astrology system. And currently I am still studying and learning constantly about different techniques when it comes to Vedic astrology, which is connected to spirituality on a deep level. And it doesn't matter if someone practices modern Western astrology or Vedic astrology. It just matters what resonates with that person. And I have found personally, though, that Vedic astrology is very profound, and there are a lot of techniques that require many decades of studying and research and learning. And I began my astrological studies learning Western astrology, and then after a year of doing that, I went on to learning about the card system, and then eventually I started learning Vedic astrology, and it's just been a fascinating journey. And just to be clear, I use the Tropical Vedic Astrology system, so I don't use the sidereal system. And just to put it simply, a lot of people, when they hear Vedic astrology, they automatically think, oh, you use a different sign system. So for example, say you're in Western astrology, you're a Cancer, your sun is in the Cancer constellation. In Vedic astrology, it's about 22-23 degrees behind the tropical system, which Western astrologers use. And so in the sidereal system, you have a high chance of your sun sign being in the sign of Gemini, which comes before Cancer. So there's a lot of confusion with that, but since I use the tropical system, it's the same as Western astrology. So if your sun is in Cancer, I will recognize your sun being in Cancer, as well as the rest of the planets falling in the same under the same sign as tropical astrology, tropical Western astrology. But what I do use, I use the techniques that come from Vedic astrology, and not all of them, because there's so many different techniques. And my teacher uses a lot of techniques from Brihat Parashara and Jaimini techniques as well. And the framework comes from Vedic astrology. So what are some of the biggest differences between the two? Well, one is the origins. So the origins of Western astrology come from Greece, from Persia, and even, the way we speak about the planets in English in Western society now, we're using the Roman gods' names. So Saturn, Pluto, Mars, all of those come from the Roman deities of the planets. The roots of modern Western astrology also come from Mesopotamia. So it's a culmination of different cultures and ancient from different cultures and different time periods. Vedic astrology comes from India, and it comes from the oral traditions passed down from the Vedas that were later transferred into the written form. And the Vedas, one of the oldest and one of the oldest Vedas that has its strong roots in astrology is the Rig Veda. We all know about the 12 signs, right? Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, etc. So we know all about those. Most people do. And in Vedic astrology, they have something called the nakshatras, which are the constellations of the moon. And in Vedic astrology, there's a lot of emphasis on the moon, and which is important, which the moon represents us. And then in Western astrology, there's a lot of emphasis on the sun, so a lot of people know their sun signs. But the nakshatras are basically 27 signs of the constellation that the moon goes through. So the moon is a male, and he has wives in all of the 27 constellations. And the moon is the fastest moving planet. You know, it doesn't stay in a sign for that long. I've found that many modern Western astrologers provide genders based on the nature of the planet. So if a planet has more of the feminine essence to it, it'll be considered a female, and if it has more of the masculine properties, it'll be considered a male. That's what I've seen. And so, for example, the sun exudes masculine quality, so a lot of people consider the sun a male, whereas say the moon has a lot of the feminine qualities, so they'll say the moon is female. But in a lot of the Vedic traditions, a lot of the planets tend to be considered male. For example, you know, the moon is a male, even though it has a feminine quality to it. It's more, has a feminine nature to it. And Venus is also male, even though the nature of Venus is feminine. And the moon, being a male, when it comes to the mythologies, it is a male. They're all male in Vedic astrology, but they exude either masculine or feminine like energy, and there are some that exude more of a neutral energy. The Sun, Mars, and Jupiter exude masculine energy, while Saturn, K2, and Mercury are more neutral. The planets with more of the feminine energy are the Moon, Venus, and Rahu. And then another big difference that I see between modern Western astrology and Vedic astrology is that in modern Western astrology, there's the rulerships are a bit different. So a lot of modern Western astrologers say that the outer planets can be rulers of certain signs, whereas Vedic astrology, there are no outer planets that rule any given sign. So that's another big difference that I see. Even though I do see a lot of modern Western astrologies give what they call traditional rulerships. In modern Western astrology, they'll say that Uranus rules over Aquarius, and that Neptune rules over Pisces, and Pluto rules Scorpio. And then in Vedic astrology, it's all of what they call traditional rulerships. So you'll have the Sun rules Leo, the Moon rules the sign of Cancer, and Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. It's Jupiter, which rules over the signs Sagittarius and Pisces. Venus rules Taurus and Libra. Saturn rules over Capricorn and Aquarius. So it's very, very important to know the rulerships, because that can help us have insight into a person's chart in order to give them more of an accurate reading. One thing that I don't see in Western astrology is a Parashara technique, which looks at each planetary interaction. So each planet can either have be a friend to another planet or a certain planet. It can be neutral to a certain planet, and it can be an enemy to a certain planet. And just because one planet is a friend, an enemy, or neutral to another planet, it doesn't mean that particular planet is going to have the same effect. It's not going to be the same exactly. So for example, the moon and Mercury is an example of this. It's very rare for the moon to be in a difficult condition because the moon has no enemies. So if the moon is conjunct Mercury, or a person's Mercury is aspecting the moon in a strong way, a person can have this interesting effect because the moon receives a lot from Mercury. The Mercury is a great friend to the moon. However, the moon is an enemy to Mercury. The way the planets act towards each other is not mutual necessarily. It's not always mutual. The reason why planets can be friends or neutral or enemies to another is because they all function in a different way. So certain planets have a certain function, a certain goal, and another planet may not have that same expression. So the moon is about having inner nourishment. It's about getting nourished from within and basically happiness, and that happiness being something that you can get from the inside. Whereas Mercury is about kind of worldly fulfillment. Mercury is a planet of concrete realizations. So it's about, the things that work on the outside. Venus is also more of an outward planet, getting fulfillment from things of the world, such as, massages or vacations or cars and material things, which is really nice to have, but it kind of clashes with the needs of the moon, which is wanting that inner happiness. So that is something called Logitati Avestas, which is looking at the conditions of each planet and looking at the relationship with each planet. I wrote a blog on that. If you go to hercosmiccrown.com/blogs, and I have the information right here on the blog. So check out the blog if you want to know more about Logitati Avestas. It's by no means an exhaustive course on it because it's such an in-depth and technical way of looking at astrology, but I feel like you can't really be an astrologer without knowing that technique because it informs a person's behavior, habits, psychological complexes. It's really, really deep, and it's a really cool technique. But that was more setting up the foundations of Logitati Avestas, and that's something that I don't see in Western astrology, that I haven't seen it actually. There are many types of Avestas. There are some Avestas that look at the dignities of planets, and that is a whole different topic, and it has a lot to do with the dignities of the planets. In Vedic astrology, it's more known that there are many charts, and there are 16 charts that can be used, although a lot of modern Vedic astrologers, they just kind of focus on the Navamsha chart, which is the chart of marriage. And so what is the divisional chart? In Vedic astrology, the divisional chart is basically looking at the Rashi chart, which is the main chart. It's your natal chart, and it zooms in on a particular house, and zooming in on that house you could see more details. So it's really cool, especially if your client has a question about a certain area in their life. You can look at that divisional chart and then see more details with it. So with the D9 chart, if someone has a question about their marriage path, then you can look at that and zoom in on that. There's like a Hora chart where you can look at someone's how they're going to get their needs met. It's more like a financial chart. But the D9 is a really popular one, which is the Navamsha, and that has to do with, like I said, someone's marriage path, but it doesn't mean that everyone's going to get married, because we know that not everyone chooses the path of marriage, although most people do. Some people choose a single life, or they choose the life of a monk, and they go into like a monastery type of situation. So that's the path that they choose in life. So you can look at the D9 to see whatever their path is, and the D9 also has to do with one's beliefs. You can look at someone's beliefs regarding their marriage. There's a chart that looks at someone's ancestors, and that can also be read as someone's past life as well. So it's really fascinating to dive deeper into that, but for that you need someone's accurate birth time. And there are so many more differences between modern Western astrology and Vedic astrology, but those are the big ones that I've noticed. Let me know if you've noticed any other ones that I missed. Please write them in the comment section below. I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.